Good morning, students. This is Ms. Hart back with another math bell ringer. This morning, we will be exploring finding the distance between 2 points on a coordinate grid. We have 2 points here, 7, 3, -1, -4. In order to find the distance between these 2 points, we will be using the distance formula as follows. The square root of x2 minus x1, and then square it, plus y2 minus y1, and then square it. Now, in order to know which points will be x1, x2, y1, y2, we must label the 4 numbers we see here. How do we label them? Well, if you think about it, we read a book from left to right. So therefore, we must label these points left to right in the order we see them. There we go. Okay, so the very first number I see here is a 7, if I'm looking left to right. And we are going to label this 7 x1. And that stands for our first x coordinate, if you may. The second number I see here is a +3. We will label this +3 y1, or the first y coordinate. So we all should know that on a coordinate grid, we have x and y coordinates. On the x-axis, an x coordinate, and on the y-axis, a y coordinate. The third number I see here is a -1. Well, you probably guessed it. This will be my second x, or aka my x2 in this matter. And then the last number I see here, which is the fourth number, this will be my y2, or my second y coordinate. So now that we have labeled all 4 numbers, we now want to use the formula appropriately. So it looks like the formula wants me to start with x2. So if I follow the formula the same way I see it, I'm going to go ahead and write a large square root symbol. And I'm going to go ahead and write what I labeled x2. Looks like I labeled the -1, x2. And I'm going to put it in parentheses the way I see it. And then I see a minus sign in the formula. So here is a minus sign. And then I see it wants me to now write what I labeled x1. And we labeled the +7 x1. So go ahead and write a 7 there. Close the parentheses, it looks like. Put the square exponent. Put the plus sign in the middle. Now it wants me to open another parentheses and write y2. So the number we labeled y2 here was -4. It wants me to write a minus sign. So I'm going to write another minus sign. It wants me to write what I wrote for y1, or what I labeled y1. And it looks like we labeled +3 for y1. Close the parentheses and put the square exponent. And then now you add or subtract the way it follows. So I'm going to subtract in this case. So it looks like I have -1 minus 7. That's a -8. I'm going to put that in parentheses there, and then still put the square there. And it looks like I have -4 minus 3. That will be -7. So I'm going to first put my plus sign here, and then bring down the -7 in parentheses, and make sure that I write a square with it. Now I kind of ran out of space, so I will be writing the rest of it here on this side of the board. So this tells me the square -8, which means -8 times -8. And that gives you a +64. And I still have to add that to -7 times -7. And it gives you a +49. So I will be adding 64 plus 49. If you add those two, you should get 113. We have one last step left of the distance formula. The last step, well, wants me to take the square root of 113. Now, this is the case. 113 is not a perfect square. Therefore, it will be left in the square root symbol. And this will be your answer for the distance between these 2 points. Thank you so much. This has been Miss Hart back with another Math Bell Ringer. Everybody, have a good day.